Hello, loves. How are you? Today, we're going to talk about divine mirrors. And this is a topic that I've been thinking about, contemplating, talking about over the last few weeks. And there's actually so much on this topic. It wasn't fully landing for me, but I kept feeling guided to really come on and talk about it. So, ironically, my higher self does things like this to me. And I was guided to actually share with you to kind of mirror for you how I work with my internal masculine and feminine to co-create during situations like this. Okay, so for starters, I have that idea, that creative idea, that spark. I have a lot of information around divine mirrors from my perspective, but there wasn't like this specific outline landing. There wasn't like a specific blueprint landing, but I do have the container, right? My stabilized masculine energy on the channel, my videos to come through. So my higher guidance was to come on, get in my container, set my intention, and then just allow the divine to come through with the higher messages that are going to be the most beneficial for you right now. And if we need to do a part two, we will. But in a sense, in this fashion, it's mirroring to you how we don't always have to have everything planned out to a T, right? We have our container, we have our information, and then we kind of let them come together and co-create without needing to micromanage the universe. Okay. So there you have it. No micromanaging the universe. We're just going to see what comes through. And immediately out of the gate, we have this Page of Cups that fell into my lap. So when I think about the mirroring, right, because we have these divine mirrors, twin flame, divine counterpart energies that are exceedingly intense mirrors because they mirror you from every direction and every fashion. Okay. But in truth, everything in the external world is a mirror. And also, everything internally for yourself is also a mirror. If we really start to break it down, but that can get overwhelming. So that's why we're going to break it up into bite-sized pieces. Okay. And with this, what I'm sensing is to talk about where we feel that cognitive dissonance around being told that the divine counterpart is a complete mirror to you, right? And you think that, okay, they're a mirror to me. So if I'm experiencing something and that must mean they're experiencing the same exact thing. But that's not always true to the very physical 3D perspective. But in the energetics, the same things will be occurring if that's your divine counterpart. Okay. So I'll give an example. So say that you are having a hard time being comfortable in your own skin and your authenticity with your voice. You have a hard time always speaking your truth about who you are, right? But say your counterpart might be very comfortable in speaking their truth about who they are. Okay. And as time goes on, you may find that you're very comfortable speaking your truth about, say, controversial issues. Okay. And you might find your counterpart is not comfortable talking about those types of things. So you may find that you have similar strengths, but in different ways or different topics. Okay. Also, you may find or see that you're working in very deep emotional work. This is actually one that happens a lot, I think, with divine feminines. They're working very deeply in the spiritual, emotional, intuitive realms, and they're going through their dark night of the soul, and they're over there assuming that their masculine is going through the same thing. But a majority of the time, that is not what's occurring for the masculine. They're on the other side of it, and their emotions and their um higher self in those intuitive energies are actually much more subconscious, running in the background, sometimes even completely frozen off. Okay. But this is because if in the shared space, while things are recalibrating and balancing out, the feminines are working in the pocket in the way that she is capable of, and the masculine is holding down the other pocket while she's mastering this energy. As the divine feminine masters those emotions and her spiritual connection and starts to stabilize into her physical body, that's mirrored in a different way where the masculines will start to be able to open up more emotionally or intuitive in their own way. I've been getting this question a lot, asking, like, are the masculines aware that they're opening up? Are they aware that they're getting these intuitive impressions? And I'll give you my 2 cents around this. The masculines are gonna become aware when it's time for them to become aware, okay? Now, with that said, do I think that they're aware that things are changing for them? Are they aware that they're seeing new perspectives and experiencing life differently? If they were to look back in time, would they notice that they've grown and changed? I would have to say, yes, chances are very high that they're aware of those types of changes. Are they aware that it's because of your connection? Probably not. Maybe not. There's a chance that they are not at this time or at certain times. But this is where I want to bring it back to you when it's time for them to have that information and to understand it because it's in alignment, they'll know. In the meantime, I would focus a lot more on providing yourself with that validation, knowing your truth, getting comfortable in who you are, and allowing the masculines their space to do their thing in their way because they're not supposed to have the same perspective as the feminine for a multitude of reasons. But I do believe that eventually, and probably some of you can attest to this, that it starts to sync up. And as the two stabilize, those 2 points of view begin to make sense to one another, right? But you will notice this is happening because you will be harmonizing those internal energies for yourself, okay? You're going to start to realize that these energies are harmonizing in you, that you're listening to your internal masculine and listening to your internal feminine, and you're able to feel comfortable in that. So this brings me to another very, very important mirror. If it makes you feel triggered or uncomfortable or irritated or frustrated or sad that your masculine isn't aware in the way that you are, that's actually a mirror for you to stabilize and neutralize your emotion in, okay? Letting go of the need for the divine masculine to mirror that in that perfect manner for you. Because right now, what's happening, if that's the case, you're being called to feel more comfortable in yourself, trusting yourself in a deeper way, knowing your truth, knowing what is correct for you, what this mirror is offering to you, allowing yourself to accept the mirror, allowing yourself to honor that everything that you're learning is because you're choosing to do it, and that this other person or people are offering you that divine mirror so you know where to work and where to look, right? So you honor the other person or the other people or the places or the things that are offering you the mirror, even if they're uncomfortable mirrors, because they're still there ultimately at the higher levels to support you in moving through your own internal shadows and triggers so that you can become more neutral and comfortable in your own emotions, right? So it's not about giving someone else the credit for your work, right? It's honoring and acknowledging your bravery and your courageousness and your willing to do this work. Okay. But also honoring and thanking the other side for holding the mirror so you know where to look. Okay. Because also, like getting deeper into those mirrors, sometimes the divine counterpart may even be mirroring to you energy that's in your DNA, or they're mirroring past experiences that you've had. And it's like bringing up all those past emotions, right? So, say you had a multitude of relationships in your past and you experienced a certain type of trauma or betrayal or discomfort in those relationships, and you never healed it or cleaned it up or dropped in the results of all the work that you've done into those pockets. Well, if the counterpart gets into a certain energy and drums that up into your system, then it's going to work all that up. Okay. And it's twofold. It's very layered because yes, that person is there to show you where that is. You go clean it up, right? That's number one. Okay. But number two, the second layer to that is if they're holding that space, they're not just there to drum it up, they're also there to mirror to you where to love yourself deeper and to handle the situation differently. Okay. So maybe in the past when were betrayed, maybe you froze out. Maybe you ignored it. Maybe you dissociated and stayed in those relationships because you didn't know how to deal with the trauma or the hurt or the pain. Okay. And or maybe you freaked out and you went, you know, dramatic and traumatic and kind of went super aggressive and freaked out and like your triggers went aggressively off the wall and maybe you felt justified in that because you were betrayed. Okay. But that's still way out. You see how those are kind of both extremes. And maybe you had experiences where you did both because maybe at first you were kind of quiet and you didn't know how to deal with the trauma, but maybe it kept happening. And then over time, you were like, started getting pissed off and started freaking out. And we're like, no, you're not going to do this to me. And you started to set hard, firm boundaries. Okay. Or maybe you walled off, or you became aggressive, or you became mean, or you became hardened or iced off, and then you wouldn't let anybody in because you went from being a pushover to being super aggressive. Okay. I bet you there's a bunch of you that can relate to this. I'm sure a lot of you have healed through these types of things, but I'm bringing it up because those are very normal responses, very normal trauma responses, especially when we haven't been taught how to deal with our emotions and we haven't been taught how to deal with being abused because no one taught us how to deal with it. They just said, you know what, deal with it, buck up, pony up, get over it, move on, move forward, keep going, push through it, right? Whatever have you. But the thing is, so the second part is really being able to sit with yourself and sort through that, but still knowing, okay, well, here's where I have to set a healthy boundary for myself. You let yourself process the emotions, get yourself support, get yourself PTSD therapy, get yourself coaching, get yourself energy work. Do whatever you have to do to help yourself move through the old energies. Because, yes, it's easy to want to project it onto the other person. Well, if they didn't do that to me, I wouldn't feel this way. I get it. Yes, people should treat each other with respect. But the bottom line is it's triggering you that deeply. It's triggering you, period, because there's something in your system that is needing support. Okay. Because as you heal that internal energy and as you allow yourself that internal support using the outside mirror, so there's some levels of projection in that sense, right? The mirror is being projected at you. But as long as you receive it like, oh, okay, this doesn't feel good. I don't like it. I definitely have to set a boundary and not let that person continue to behave that way. Even if it's a divine counterpart, doesn't matter who it is, they're still there to help teach you this. And sometimes that process is learning how to set a boundary with someone that you care deeply about. Okay. That's okay. It's if we learn how to do it in a healthy way, this is why there's so many layers to it. Okay. And so as you're learning to work with the triggers and the energy, and you're taking that internal responsibility to heal your trigger, as you heal it in the present and into the past, potentially even into ancestral memories, chances are high that's there too. Past lives, all those patterns, right? But as you start to allow yourself to be responsible for your trigger, not to blame you for that, right? But just to say, oh, okay, this happened. It wasn't good. I don't like it, but I don't want to continue to experience it. So I'm going to receive the mirror that's being offered to me. This mirror is whatever is being triggered to me right now. And I'm going to allow myself, for myself, to heal that. Okay. Because as I heal that internally for me, I won't need that type of mirror anymore. Okay. But as you even go through this healing process and you're doing better and you're handling your triggers better and you're being gentle with yourself and you're understanding the depth of the work that you're doing, you still may have some of those confusing mirror energies come into your space, right? And you might find that you're now reacting and handling it much different. So maybe instead of being a pushover or being super aggressive, you're much more assertive now. You're able to set your boundary and say, yeah, nah, I'm not okay with that. And I'm not going to participate in it. You know what I mean? But you can come talk to me when you figure that out and let people go deal with their own part. Right. But the bottom line is everything it in in this world is essentially a mirror. And I know at first that can feel very overwhelming. So you don't have to try to figure that all out at once. Okay. But there's also like, if you think about it, there's also really beautiful mirrors. And if any of you say see a spirit animal and then you go look that up, or you see an angel number and then you go look that up, those are examples of divine mirrors, love. That's examples of you allowing yourself to receive the messages and the energy and the support from the environment around you. Okay. So it does get a little bit deeper and more intense when we're talking about these relationship mirrors, and especially the ones based in trauma mirrors, okay? Which at the end of the day is what a lot of these relationship types of initiations are catalyzing within us, okay? And it starts pretty much from the beginning of when those contracts begin, when you get into the soul merge and the energies are intertwining and those deep mirrors are forming. Okay. I am a firm believer from my own experience that that was chosen at a soul level so that we could actually unravel the trauma and work through it and allow our true energy to come back to our body. Is it an intense experience? Hands down. Is it hard at times? Hands down. Do you want to run, freeze, wall off, and freak out sometimes during it? For some people, yes. And that's okay. It's part of it. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It means that you chose this divine mirror. You chose this experience so that you could be strong enough to work through these traumas, to receive what's being shown to you, not as a punishment, but as a gift so that you can heal the pains that are being poked on. Okay. I hope this is helpful. I know that it's a lot of information, and I want to give space for you to drop in the comments if there's a certain spot of what I talked about today, if you want me to expand on it, or if you have questions around this mirrored energy, because I do feel, like I said, there's a lot around it. And I think that that's maybe why I wasn't fully sure where to begin, because it's not really a linear type of experience. The mirror is layered. And like I said in my one conversation, it's more of like a house of mirrors. There's lots of different types of mirrors. There's like the inverted mirror, the convex mirror, the two-way mirror, right? There's the dark mirror. There's all these types of experiences, and so, if you feel like you are expecting this connection or relationships to go a certain way because you are thinking it's going to be an exact mirrored experience, I'm really doing this video to just express to you, if that's not happening in the way that you thought, this is why. It's not an exact mirror. There, when you get down to the energetics of it at like the molecular, atomic, quantum level, it's the same. But how it plays out in the physical world is not. And because we're walking on this planet and we're living in a physical world with emotions and projection and distortion, it's a bit different of an experience, but in mind, experience, and perspective. Once you start to get through those layers, at the core of it, it is mirrored energy, but just not always in the exact science of how we think it's going to be. Okay. And this is again for more of like that twin flame divine counterpart energy. You might have other people or other experiences that mirror to you for a time, and then it goes away and you guys go off in your own directions and you don't see that same type of mirroring effect. Okay. You might notice it close with like some people in your family. Like it happens with me and my brother a lot because we have the same life path number, but the way that we're going about our experiences is completely different. We're living two totally different types of lives on the surface, ironically. But when we sit down and have a conversation, it's amazing how we're working on almost the same exact topics. Like it's uncanny, right? So, and that's my brother, that's my sibling. Like we, do, like I said, things very different. He works in construction, I work in energy work, right? Like total opposites, but we have very similar types of things that we're dealing with when we have conversations. So that's actually another perfect example of how things can be mirrored, and to just be open to the conversations and to the experiences, because everyone in your life, everything around you is an opportunity for you to learn and grow. Okay. And I know at times that can be overwhelming. I'm not saying you have to do it all at once. You don't have to learn everything in a day. Okay. Just open up to allowing yourself to start to observe and start to notice how people, places, and things are mirroring to you. Notice how you're feeling. Okay. Notice how the weather is outside. See if there's any similarities. Okay. No, just I'm giving you a couple of examples to play with. Okay. Because this mirroring idea is much bigger than just the divine counterpart connection, although that is by far one of the most intense mirrors. Okay, hands down for sure. Gotcha on that. But all of these other mirrors are still there to support us as well. Okay. And why I'm sharing this is because it's an important and very powerful perspective to have for those of you that resonate with it. Because when you can start to understand that the world around you is communicating with you, everything is communicating with you all of the time. Okay. And it's okay. You're not going to remember everything that's being communicated. But if something starts to get your attention, then you know, oh, okay, now I've seen that like 3 or 4 times. I better start paying attention. Right. And start to allow yourself to open up to that clear divine communication with the world around you. That is also a way that your higher self will be able to begin to communicate with you in a deeper way. So, this also ties into our higher self embodiment. Anywhere you can build trust with yourself and the communication you're receiving intuitively or from the world around you is going to help you strengthen in trusting and surrendering into that higher power. Okay. But again, this is like anything, it's a muscle. So the more you work with it, the more you'll be able to trust it. And then the more you're going to build that muscle. Okay. So if it feels like, whoa, this is kind of a lot, or Danielle, I got this, but now I got a little bit more I can add on to. Wherever you are on this part of the journey is perfect. It's all okay. And even if you just absorb this and then set it on the back burner for a little bit and just let it kind of work, at the very least, you can just open up to letting yourself receive messages and energy from your highest self and say, like I said, higher self, how do you want to communicate with me? And then give your higher self an image or a word or an idea, right? Like I told you, I think on one of the, maybe it was the higher self video where I said years and years ago, when I first did this exercise, I asked the higher self to give me rose as a symbol. And it was happening, but even years later, it became a very, very significant symbol for me. So you never know the little seeds you are planting for yourself and the little breadcrumbs you're leaving for yourself via your higher self. Okay. So enjoy this process. Understand that there is a lot to it. And if you get stuck in parts that of this mirror part, right? Like if you're in a space where you have a counterpart connection and you feel like stuck, like I don't see the mirror, it doesn't make sense to me, it's the opposite of what's actually happening, and it feels like sticky and weird and uncomfortable and stuck, that's okay. There's probably something in that pocket for you to learn from. Okay. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Just say, okay, I'm aware that there's something here I'm not able to see. Maybe you're blindfolded in that mirror. You can't see that mirror yet. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, but you're aware, like, okay, something doesn't feel right. So we'll say this, it's one of two things. Either there is a mirror there for you to see, and you're just having to open it up slowly so you can process whatever's in that pocket, or perhaps this person isn't your counterpart and they might not need to be mirroring to you and you can't see it because it's not really resonating because it's not necessary for you to look at. Okay. So it's probably one of those two scenarios, not a necessary mirror for you to embark on. So just let yourself dissolve it and let it go, or just ask for the truth, ask for the clarity. Like if there is some sort of a mirror that I'm just not able to see, I would like for that to thaw out. I would like the blindfold to come off. I would like to gain clarity for myself around what this is. Or I'm seeing these pieces of the puzzle but they don't make sense to me. So that can bring up frustration. I get it. That's why I think this video may be important. Just because if you receive certain information externally around this path, and then you reach a pocket that feels stuck or it starts to not make sense, it doesn't necessarily mean that's wrong. It just might mean there's more information that you're needing. Every single time this has ever happened to me, I would go sit with it and just be like, all right, there's more to this. Please let me see what this is. Help me to understand it. And most of the time, what I would find was there was a bunch more stuff that I needed to look at and understand. But through that, because I did need to look at it and understand it, it was because my soul and wanted those lessons. My soul wanted that understanding. And of course, that makes sense because look at what I do. I'm here with you talking to you about it. So, of course, I wanted to understand it. Maybe not everybody needs to do that. That's okay. You're going to know the difference. The bottom line is if you feel stuck, if you feel confused, if you feel uncertain, call on that higher self, open up your internal heart, and just start to ask for the truth. All right. And if you need some support with this, you know where to find me. All right, loves. All right. Again, I would love to hear from you because I know that this is a big topic, but I'm glad that we got something going, especially for the new year. I hope you're having a beautiful first day of this lovely 2024 year, and I will see you soon. Love you. Bye.